Exploration of energy, waving and whipping through. Saw you dancing and sparking a string of DNA in an observative measure of mayhem. Mayhem, 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 mayhem.
This is the Dominance Academy.
Mayhem.
Welcome.
Mayhem, mayhem, mayhem.
I'm your professor, Mr. Justin.
Mayhem, 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 mayhem.
And tonight we're going to be talking about feminine emotions. Large area of confusion for lots of guys. Their emotions. What do you do with them? They're so scary. They're so confusing. So yeah, we'll be getting into that tonight. Thank you, Uncle Guns, for posting the links. This is an old track of mine made years ago when I thought I was going to be a music producer. There's a friend of mine, she was a poet. I cut up her voice. Alright, let's get myself organized here. Alright. Yeah, we're going to be talking about emotions, you know. Crazy bitches. Yes, that's what we're going to be doing. Getting into all that stuff. You know, and it's funny, you know, because I remember like years ago, you know, kind of like what that was like. And, you know, when a woman's emotions would come at me, it was, I felt like a deer in the headlights. I'm sure a lot of guys could relate with that. But yeah, I really felt like a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to do with them, and I would just kind of like freeze or shrink back, and you know, it's not a good look. You know, and of course, it would piss women off. You know, because they're looking for something grounded, something reassuring, and that's just. Yeah, you know, I imagine it's got to be frustrating, you know, when someone is, you know, if I was that woman, you know, feeling chaotic, feeling worried, feeling sad or anxious, and I'm looking to my man for something that's not like me, and he's frozen. I could imagine that would be just infuriating, absolutely infuriating. As you can tell, I'm really into jungle drum and bass. Yeah, I was in the scene when it started, you know, in the mid to late 90s, when a lot of excellent stuff was coming out of England. Yeah, that was a great time for electronic music. People didn't know what the fuck was hitting them. Yeah, England and Germany, that stuff really started taking the world by storm. go to underground parties. You know, they were just called parties. This was before they were even called raves. Like the word rave didn't even exist. Not at all. Yeah, so getting into some stuff about emotions. You know, because it's funny because like guys will often like to point out, oh, men are so logical and women are so emotional. Men are logical creatures and women are emotional creatures. Yet they don't know how to deal with those emotional creatures. But they love pointing them out. You know, it's like, okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. We appreciate your insightful wisdom. Women are emotional. Now, can you do anything about it? Can you handle the storms if you manipulated a woman? Well, of course you can, but you know, why are you putting yourself in that position? You know, that's just like creating chaos for yourself. Why the hell are you doing that? But and actually, one of my guys is. It's funny, you know. It's just funny, like how things work out. Because I was trying to decide, and like I've got like lists of topics. I'm like, which one of these do I work on? And then one of my guys, you know, reached out to me, and you know, his woman is feeling a certain way, you know, kind of feeling like, you know, she's feeling very sensitive. She's feeling like he's been a little rougher with her recently. I'm guessing on an emotional level. And she's saying that it's making me want to cry and withdraw. And she mentioned feeling like there's a smoke alarm going off internally, and she doesn't, you know, when it probably doesn't need to. And she's kind of expressing that, like she's not sure if it's like her hormones because she's in her luteal phase, you know, or if it's really something that he's doing or not doing or whatever. It's probably a combination of the two, because, you know, yes, women are hormonal, you know, various times throughout the month, not just during their menstruation phase, but it doesn't create things; it just amplifies them. And so this is where like something wrong could happen, and then it spirals. And next thing you know, she thinks the world is going to end and life sucks because like one thing happened, you know, she lost her keys. But you know, that's just how things go. And you know, the trick is that you don't want to get wrapped into that. You don't want to get wrapped into that. You don't want to get pulled into that, you know, kind of like when you're at the ocean. There's an undertow and the wave comes in and you can feel it like pulling you out into the ocean, sucking the sand out from underneath your feet. You can't let the woman's emotional state do that to you. Like you have to be denser and heavier than her undertow and not let it pull you. But at the same time, you don't want to be too cold about it, right? Because if you're too cold about it, too detached, too logical, then she's going to feel utterly alone in her emotional state, and that's just going to make things worse, you know. And I explained like kind of what he used to do, where he just kind of detach himself and be like, hey, like, okay, you go deal with whatever that shit is going on inside your head and just come back to me when you're happy and cheerful. And he would put her in this little rowboat and push her out into the middle of the lake, and you go, all right, bye-bye. Call me when you're feeling better. And you can certainly do something like that, and certainly operate in a relationship like that, and it can sustain itself just fine. But I don't think that it's going to have the kind of depth that that brings out her full self. It's going to bring out her full, authentic self. So that means you have to learn how to embrace and accept all of her if you want all of her to come out. right? Because like the deepest eroticism also comes with the deepest of her emotions, the deepest of her thoughts. Because it's all interconnected, as I explain practically on every show, every lecture where I'm talking about how women are interwoven between their bodies, their minds, their hearts, and their souls. It's all woven together. Unless like certain sort of conditioning is involved, or some heavy trauma where they can kind of compartmentalize things. And but under normal circumstances, it's all interwoven. Right. Okay, so let's check this out. Pardon me. All right, so let's get into this lecture, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can ask them at that time. A woman's emotional storm isn't random, irrational, or crazy. It's an ancient biological, psychological, and relational response that activates when she feels unsafe, unseen, unheard, or just generally disconnected. And the wild part is this: she often can't articulate why it's happening in the moment. She feels it before she understands it. Her emotions move faster than her language. And if a man takes her storm personally, if he thinks her intensity is about his worth, he collapses. And that collapse confirms her deepest fear, that I'm alone inside this storm. And when a woman spirals, what you're really witnessing is a temporary loss of orientation, a loss of center. A woman doesn't spiral because she wants drama. She spirals because something inside her is signaling, I don't feel held, I don't feel grounded, I don't feel tethered to anything solid. Her emotions are reaching for structure, for containment, for direction. Not control, but presence. She's trying to grab onto something stable while the internal floor drops out from under her. And in heterosexual dynamics, the something stable is the man. Not because of patriarchy, but because of polarity. Masculine energy orients, feminine energy expresses. So when she spirals, she's expressing everything that has no structure: emotion, fear, tension, unsorted meaning. And she's testing, consciously or unconsciously, whether the man she's tied to can hold a storm without becoming one. And most men don't know this. So when she escalates, they escalate. When she gets loud, they get defensive. When she becomes emotional, they try to outlogic her. And that's where it all falls apart. Because if she could think her way out of the storm, she wouldn't be having one. She needs grounding, not debate. She needs presence, not correction. She needs to feel your strength, not hear your speech. A woman's storm is not solved through thinking. It's solved through leadership of the emotional environment. That's the masculine role. A woman feels safe when a man can hold her chaos without making it about his ego, his fear, or his need to win the moment. The grounding itself is subtle. You don't smother her emotions or force her into silence. Suppression breaks trust. And a woman feels suppressed, she doesn't get quieter, she goes underground. Then the resentment builds, the communication shuts down, and eventually she detonates in a far bigger way later because her system never processed the first storm. The right way to ground her is to anchor yourself first. She's not actually looking for you to solve her feelings. She's looking to feel your center while she moves through them. You breathe deeper, you speak slower, you listen more intently. You don't match her emotional frequency, you lower it. Not by force, but by example. Your calm becomes a tuning fork. She attunes to your tone, your steadiness, to your certainty, and that's the moment she feels held. That's the moment her body softens. That's the moment her nervous system starts reorganizing around you instead of spinning out on its own axis. Her emotions don't need to be shut down. They need to be metabolized, and the masculine helps metabolize them by absorbing the impact without crumbling. Think of it like this. She's throwing sparks because she's overloaded. If you panic, the sparks ignite. If you shut her down, you trap the sparks inside. But if you stand there with emotional fireproofing, presence, breath, grounded tone, the sparks burn out naturally. She calms down because she feels the boundary of your strength, not your dominance in the aggressive sense, your dominance in the containment sense. Now, the masculine role during female chaos isn't to fix her. It's not to submit to her. It's to guide the moment. You lead the tempo. You set the emotional frame. You decide what energy enters the room and what energy doesn't. That means when she's spiraling, you don't take the bait into pointless back and forth arguments. You don't jump into the vortex. You acknowledge what she feels, not necessarily the story she's telling. Emotion is real even when the story is distorted. You can validate the feeling without endorsing the narrative. Something like, I hear that you're overwhelmed, or I can see or feel that you're overwhelmed. I'm right here. That line alone hits deeper than any logical rebuttal. The grounding is only one half of it. The other half is knowing when to set limits. Because a woman in a spiral can lose control of her expression, tone, words, accusations, projections, and allowing her to devolve into disrespect or verbal violence isn't grounding, it's enabling. A man without limits gets swallowed by the whole female chaos. A man with limits creates the container she actually craves. You pull her close when she's emotional but still connected. You set limits when she's emotional and destructive. Pulling her close sounds like, look at me, breathe, I'm right here, I've got you. Setting limits sounds like, I'm here with you, but I'm not staying in this tone. When you're ready to speak calmly, I'll continue. Until then, I'll be in the other room. Not as a threat, but as a boundary, as leadership. Women feel safest when a man who can say, come here and enough, with the same level of calm authority. One softens her body, the other protects the relationship, and both are necessary. Because if you always pull her close without limits, you'll still get chaos. If you always set limits without warmth, you get distance. The art is knowing which moment calls for which move. So how do you know? Her body language tells you. If she's emotional but leaning toward you, spiraling out but wanting connection, that's a pull her close moment. If she's attacking, escalating, or losing respect, that's a set limits moment. And the reason this matters isn't discipline, it's setting the polarity. Feminine energy expands, masculine energy directs. Her storm expands outward, your job is to redirect it without crushing it. Fundamentally, a woman doesn't want a man who shuts her down. She wants a man who can contain her without breaking. A man who doesn't get swept away by her waves, but stands there like a shoreline, unshaken, unbothered, unmovable. Because a woman's deepest fear is not that a man will be too strong, it's that he won't be strong enough. Not physically, but emotionally, energetically, spiritually. She wants to know that when she loses her center, you won't lose yours. When she falls apart, you remain composed. When she's chaotic, you're gravitational. And here's the secret. The moment she fully realizes you don't get destabilized by her intensity is the moment she stops unleashing it at the very same level. Her storms soften because the storm is not meant to destroy the man. It's meant to find the man. To see if his center is real or performative. To see if his presence is stable or fragile. To see if he can actually lead the emotional terrain. A woman's chaos is not an attack. It's a search for safety, structure, and connection. You answer that search not by overpowering her and not by bending to her, but by grounding her, setting the tone and leading the moment. When a woman knows her emotions, can move without being punished, she will trust you. When she knows she can express without being abandoned, she opens to you. When she knows her storm won't shake your foundation, she respects you. And when she respects you, she relaxes into her femininity. The chaos fades, and the relationship strengthens at its roots. That's how a man handles a woman's emotional storm. Not by silencing her, not by matching her, but by becoming the still point she orients around. So there you have it. That's how you handle women. Well, that's how you handle the the flare-ups and the chaotic parts of them. You know. One second. You should check out the live that I'm doing right now. It's right up the alley of the problem that you're working on. So he doesn't know that I'm talking about him right now. But anyways, but I hope that I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense and drew a clear enough picture for you to understand the what role you should take and the importance of that role, and what a profound significance that it has. Just like your presence alone. And as you could see, like from the examples and how I was describing things, it's really not doing much. Like, you don't really have to do much. It's doing a bit, but the right way. Because that makes things more impactful. Actually, overindulging yourself into her situation and getting wrapped into it and that sort of thing. That typically just complicates matters. It really does. Because you're adding kindling, right? You're adding potential pathways, and because something you say could be heard the wrong way. And I could hear it, like guys be like, damn, like that's just stupid. Like, why should I have to watch my words so much? But words are powerful. You can speak certain realities into existence. You can alter the way people think and how they feel. You can alter people's perceptions. Like, the spoken word is incredibly powerful. And it's an incredibly powerful tool. And so I've mentioned in other shows where we as humans who can, where our brains are working normally, we take communication for granted. And this is when I was talking about, the erotic side of things, where we can regard communication as an art form, and we can use our words to illustrate scenes, pictures, feelings, things of that nature in her head. And there's great strength in that. So, but that's just one facet of where your voice becomes powerful. And the other side is this. The other side is being able to create and maintain that containment such that she can get out whatever the heck she needs to get out, and you have the ability to take that energy, just as you were to take her erotic energy when given a little bit, and then you can redirect it and reshape it. It's the same sort of thing, but it's just a different context, and it's done with a slightly different hand. Okay, you can't really be very aggressive with it. You have to be a little bit more minimal. But the minimal movement is really what becomes so incredibly impactful. Where you're not just trying to talk and talk and talk and talk and using all these words and shit to kind of get her to stop whatever she's feeling, right? And try to like force her into like changing directions emotionally. make her like change the way she feels, make her think things in a different way. You can offer different perspective shifts after she's calmed down, right? Because if the emotions are high, I mean, this is with anybody. Like if someone's emotions are high, it's going to be, whether it's like anger or worry, fear, sadness, the state is stronger than one's ability to perceive something else. So if you are going to be offering some other perspective, whatever the situation may be, a different way of seeing things, it will only be heard once she's calm. And so, your job is to kind of stand within that and be able to, like, like the dialogue said, be wearing like a fireproof suit, where you will not combust by standing in the middle of everything. And just by your grounded presence and using very simple, simple phrases, acknowledgement, that's a huge one, because that gives like a slight signal that she's not alone. Because a lot of times when a woman is spiraling out, she's having some sort of really intense emotion, she will feel utterly alone. She'll feel very, very alone. Maybe she'll talk to friends or something like that, but it's not the same. It's not the same as talking to her man. And if she has one. So when a woman's spiraling and she's got a man, and then he is able to provide this kind of containment, it provides an incredible shift for her that allows her to kind of come into a different space. So all of that shit can come out, and then it flows into his container, which becomes unaffected by these things. And then he's like, here, like, come here, sit down, right? Or come here, you put her in your arms. Anything along those lines. That's just very simple, very grounding, right? Look at me in the eyes, and you tell her, everything's going to be okay. You're okay, or I hear you. Acknowledge her emotional state. And to our brains, this doesn't make any sense, right? Because typically, like when we have a problem, we're looking for the solution because we want the problem to stop and we want to move on. If I'm driving and I hear something rattling, like, somewhere in the back of the truck or something like that, it drives me fucking insane. Like I literally have to pull over and find what the thing is that's rattling and make it stop. I will shut everything down until I fucking stop that shit. I've even gotten so bad, maybe it's like some OCD or some shit, but like if it's warm weather, the window's down, and I have like pretty aggressive tires on the truck, so like it's got fairly aggressive tread, but pebbles and shit get stuck in it. So if I'm driving and one gets stuck and I hear the tick, 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 tick of the pebble, I'll pull over and like take my knife and like pop it out of the tread, because it'll just drive me batty hearing that over and over for miles. But that's just how we are. Like we hear something and we're like, that needs addressing, let me fix it, because it's like a thorn in our brain and we have to get rid of it. And we cannot treat women in the same fashion. We cannot treat them as the thorn, and we can't treat their thorn the way we would treat ours, because it just doesn't work. The techniques aren't transferable. And if you try, it's just going to make them feel unseen. And we don't get that. Like why does that, because to our brains, like, why does that even fucking matter whether we feel seen? Like our emotional state, like, who gives a fuck? Let's just fucking change it. Like, this isn't pleasant, let's just change it. And so that's part of where the confusion comes from, and where guys make a lot of mistakes, because they're coming at it the way they would come at it, instead of sort of assuming the woman's position, but from the core of a man. And so you can kind of like go into their field, but if you're operating from your core, you're grounded, you don't get swept up. You don't get pulled into that undertow. You know, even if she like lashes out at you or whatever, it's just like, yeah, okay. Like I've stood in the ocean before. It's not that big of a deal. It can be. I remember I was at the beach one year and this kid got pulled out. He got pulled out far into the water. And this is the type of beach where there are no lifeguards. Like it's an all like swim at your own risk sort of thing. And he looked like, I just had the feeling he was struggling. And so I rushed out to him, grabbed the kid and swim him back in. And you know, you could tell he was tired. He hadn't like swallowed a whole lot of water, but you know, if he was out there for like another 5 minutes, he probably would have gone under. But yeah, that was my moment of heroism for my life. Saved the kid's life. Yep. After the name, adding potential pathways like a mentor as I lead her to feeling comfortable. Not necessarily like a mentor. That's after, right? Like I said, like after things are calmed down, that's when you can offer pathways, right? And she may take them, she may not. It doesn't matter really. But the point is that when there's the emotions, whatever they are flared up, she's not going to hear anything because they're just too strong. It's not by choice where she's like, oh, I don't want to hear anything. And maybe she'll even say that, you know, out of like frustration, because that's not going to, like in her mind, it's not going to solve the problem, because it's like her own tools are what's necessary. And so what you can do is you use her tools, but with your hand. And so you're kind of like stepping into her zone, but, you know, but from your core. And this is what allows you to kind of be in the whole thing. And then your presence, which becomes stronger because you're not getting swept in. You know, you're very much not equal to it, right? And so you become this like, you know, foreign entity that can kind of settle things down. And you do this enough times, and her body starts trusting your presence. You know, it's not like a logical thing or even an emotional thing. It's like her body starts responding to your presence. And so flare-ups, which will always happen, right? Because that's just what life does. It's random, it's chaotic. And women are random and chaotic. So if you're with a woman for, you know, a period of time, you know, she's going to flare up, you know, things are going to happen. But if you contain like this, you know, repeatedly, when these things come up, it's the same thing, right? Now let's hope you're not having to deal with this like every week, or she's not having to deal with this every week. But when it does come up, you're consistent with how you show up, you know, within her storm. Her body will start remembering this, and it'll like her body will remember. It's like, oh yeah, like, you know, my man is here, and I don't have to feel as intensely as I did before. So that familiarity allows things to be not as strong. One second. Anyways, okay. And I'd say like that's, you know, I think this is something that is overlooked. I think this is like greatly overlooked for guys who want to be in relationships, and I would say that that's a large portion of guys. Large portion of guys want to be in relationships, despite them saying cool stuff like, "Oh man, I don't want to be in a relationship. I just want a roster." Yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't. Most guys would just be satisfied with a steady girlfriend, right? Or a wife, um, something along those lines. Uh, most men, like the vast majority of men, are not cut out for operating rosters indefinitely. Um, very, very few guys, and I would say that they're probably, very detached. They've got you know, like a detached disorder or something like that, or their attachment style. What do they call that? Anxious attachment, or I don't know what that is. No, that's where they get clingy. But I don't know. I'm not really into that whole like attachment theories and love languages. I really don't like these ideas of creating these like blanket explanations for complex emotions and saying, okay, we can just put ourselves into these categories, you know, uh, because at different points in time, like everybody goes through these things. So, right, the four main attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidance, and disorganized. And so, yes, I was thinking of avoidance. Okay. So, I would say that the guy who ends up being this, player for life, he's a lifelong bachelor. He's got, girls on call in his little black book, and he's always hanging out with a different girl each week. I would say that would be quite avoidant. Okay, because I do believe that that intimacy is something very unique to the human experience, and so by cutting it out, typically due to fear, we kind of shortchange ourselves on our experience, on our potential for growth. And it's not fulfilling existence. It's not a very fulfilling existence. Yeah, secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. I don't know what the fucking disorganized one. Okay, so what's it say here? Secure attachment is people with this style have high self-esteem and enjoy intimate relationships. They feel comfortable expressing their needs and feelings and can be both close to others and independent. In relationships, they tend to have healthy, balanced relationships with good communication and trust. Okay, I think I'm secure. Anxious is this style is marked by a fear of abandonment and a tendency to worry about the stability of relationships. Individuals may be very sensitive to a partner's actions and moods. In relationships, people with this style may crave closeness but struggle with insecurity and anxiety, sometimes acting out when triggered. So I would say that my submissive is an anxious attachment. There's the avoidant, which is this style involves keeping an emotional distance from others and a preference for self-reliance. Individuals may seem aloof and avoid deep emotional discussions. I would say that they also get defensive instead of avoiding emotional discussions, they also defend and prevent people from having them with them. In relationships, people with this style often downplay the importance of relationships, may withdraw when things become too intimate or difficult. I definitely know people who are like that. And then there's the disorganized attachment. I didn't really know about this one. This is a mix of anxious and avoidant. Okay. Often leading to chaotic and unpredictable behavior. Individuals may simultaneously desire closeness and push people away. Fuck. In relationships, this style is associated with a fear of rejection, low self-esteem, and high anxiety. The inconsistent behavior can make relationships difficult to navigate. Yeah, I bet. Excuse me. Yeah, that sounds insane. I would definitely not want to be with someone who's like that or have that shit myself. Like, how does that even appear? How would that even show up? A mix of being of like anxious, avoidant, and or anxious and avoidant. So you're like clingy, but don't get too close. I can't live without you, but I don't want to be emotionally close to you. That's probably how it shows up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fucked. You know. But actually, a lot of girls that I've known, that I've interacted with intimately, they've been the anxious attachment style. Fear of abandonment, tendency to worry about the stability of relationships, uh, sensitive to a partner's actions and moods. That's been a very common thing in my experience. I don't know about you guys, but but I think that it's important for at least men to work to become the secure attachment, right? Having the high self-esteem, enjoying relationships, feeling comfortable expressing and receiving needs and desires, being able to be close yet also independent. Um, and I urge guys to learn how to be this way. You know, whatever sort of untangling is required in your mind, whatever sort of you know, like emotional things are going on, or your own traumas or hangups, get that shit sorted out, because it's gonna make your relationships really fucking hard, really hard. I tell you, when you work shit out and you make things simple and clean and understood to yourself, really, women just kind of sort themselves out. Like it's like they just kind of like fall right into whatever it is that you've got going on for yourself. And that's not to say, about your career or your goals. That's kind of like stylizing, right? So like you could have like two guys who are equally grounded. They're equally in a position of being secure attachment style, okay? But because of their particular lifestyle, their goals, their choices, the career that they're in, that's all the styling that goes on top of that security, that emotional attachment style, right? It's just stylizing. So that's kind of like the draw, where she's like, oh, he's interesting, but what makes her really want to stay is how you are, how comfortable she's able to feel. So like, of course you should be working out your goals and being driven towards those, just being on top of all the various things in your life that require maintenance. I just put fuel stabilizer in my bike because it's going to be sitting for a while, sadly. But yeah, there's all sorts of things that require a fuel stabilizing additive to just make sure that everything's going well. Okay. And because if you don't, like, everything just falls apart. That's the nature of existence, is to move toward entropy. If you leave anything alone for long enough, it starts to degrade. It will just fall apart and just melt away. Except for like things like PVC, like that shit lasts forever. like there's like PVC shower curtains, which is like the typical material for like those clear shower curtains, that they're in landfills, and they're going to be there like beyond your grandkids. Like, they're going to be there for a long fucking time. So, but aside from that, aside from PVC shower curtains, everything breaks down. It's funny. I used to, I would do like little experiments with food when I was a little kid. So I grew up in this like somewhat large colonial style house. Had like a big front porch and these like columns, these like big wooden columns. It was really cool because like now that I look back at it, like there weren't a lot of houses that had these. Suburban neighborhood, that sort of thing. There was a 3-bedroom, which was interesting because I've got 2 older brothers, mom and dad, and both 3 bedrooms. So it was like me moving around between, like sharing with one brother, then sharing with the other, and it was interesting. And then finally, the oldest, he moved out, and then I had my own room, and the other brother had his. But in our upstairs bathroom, above the shower, there's like an area, right? And there was like this little wooden sliding door. And I think it was probably used for like linens or cleaning supplies or something like that. But because my mother is like super fucking short, she's like, I don't know, 5'2" or something. She wouldn't utilize that because she would literally need a step ladder to get up to that thing. But I would climb on the sink, and I had this like this plastic soap dish that had a lid, and I would put stuff in there. Like I'd put like an apple slice or like part of a banana peel, and I would just close it up and I'd put it up there. And then every like week or so, I would go up and I'd just check it out and take off the lid and just see what was happening to this banana peel or this slice of apple, and just like watching it get further and further into degrading and rot and so on. It never really smelled, which was interesting. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, I guess I was into observing process even back then. But yeah, so maybe that's why it's easy for me to like not get swept up and stuff, because I was always of a position of just observing and trying to understand things without judgment, and just looking at stuff and going, wow, that's cool, like that's interesting. Whereas most people would be like, what the fuck are you doing? That's so weird. Hey, that's me. But generally speaking, like that's kind of like the attitude that you kind of have to have when you're like involving yourself with girls. Sort of like you've got your own little soap dish, with your girl in there, and observing her as she's going through her various changes. The difference is that I was merely observing. I wasn't doing anything to the banana peel, right? I was just looking at it. But as a man, you're not just observing her from a distance. Your presence and the things that you do alter what happens to that banana peel. If my sub is not watching this, I'm going to start calling her banana peel. And she's going, what? Like, why are you calling me banana peel? And she'll accept it, but I know inside she'll just be like, yes, my lord. And then inside I know she's going to be like, what the fuck are you calling me banana peel for? Yeah. I'm always looking for like cheerful, lighthearted ways to degrade her identity. Because that, like I was saying, like on another show, it's like that is part of the thing that's causing problems. Because the identity is also tied with those, poor memories, traumas, attachments, judgments, beliefs, like all that shit. Like it's all tied to one's built up and assumed identity. So if you can, in whatever way, be it humor or some other way, do things to kind of like start to thin that out, or like chip off some layers on the surface, it weakens those bonds to those beliefs and perceptions and traumas and all that stuff, attachments, things that they're holding on to. So and so that's the good thing, right? Because now things that kind of come up, they don't have the same amount of impact. The things from the past don't have the same kind of impact. But you are growing your impact because you're the most like present thing, right? So you have the greatest effect on, or you can, I guess the potential is there, to have the greatest effect on her states of her perceptions, her beliefs, how she feels about herself, how she sees herself. And these are truly challenging things, right? Because you've got family, culture, society, and family, culture, society, media, kind of like, both beating and sculpting their self-perception from a very, very young age. And in school, so like school, family, culture, media, all these things, like just like beating certain messages, like slowly like seeping them in, sometimes massaging them in, saying like, oh, doesn't this feel good? Yeah, it feels good to want these things. Oh yeah, it kind of feels good to like not like this about yourself. That sort of stuff. And like, it'll make you feel even better if you bought this product. And so they've got like just many years of having this, right? Which strengthens that assumed identity. And so that part is one of the most challenging aspects of leading a girl, is that identity part. That's like the last bastion, the last stand of resistance. And but you can see it, like once you start like dealing with it in real time, man, you can see it right in front of you. And he's like, damn, like that, like I can just see like she's just operating from this manufactured nonsense that she herself doesn't even know. And during the right times, the right context, you can bring awareness to this, but it requires it being thinned a little bit. So this is why I find various ways to kind of like thin out the ego and the manufactured sense of self, because it just makes growth easier. Resistance, there's like resistance of some kind. Typically it's going to be attached to that manufactured sense of self. It's going to be attached to ego, pride, fear, like all that stuff. But it's all just plastic sitting on the surface. So whatever you can do to kind of melt that plastic or shave off layers to make it thinner, things they just run more smoothly. And this is part of the reason why I enjoy BDSM so much, as a psychological pathway of development, emotional and sometimes spiritual, where this, this lifestyle and this pathway, just by the nature of it, it almost forces you, I guess if you're doing it right, it almost like forces you to thin these things out. It almost forces you to, because you can tell like certain situations will come up, certain context, certain activities, be it like just verbal or something physical, and it will kind of like put pressure on things. And you can like feel it very real. And then because of just the nature of these types of relationships where there's a lot of communication about all sorts of stuff, right? Because you cannot do this properly without a sense of like self-awareness. Like if you're not utilizing and exercising in real time your self-awareness, then you're really not going to go anywhere. You're really not going to do anything, and you're going to be the same guy and the same girl that you were months ago, because you're just kind of dancing on the surface, like cosplaying as a BDSM relationship. Because I don't know, like this girl, you wear a vinyl teddy, and suck on fingers, like that doesn't, I mean, it's fun and all, but that's not BDSM. It just looks like it as we've come to understand what BDSM is, but it's a pathway to transformation. through intimacy. And the word intimacy is just, it's accepting all of the definitions of that. Because it can come up in so many different ways. It's not just sex. Like I've said, like I know doms who have subs and they do not touch them sexually at all. It's other things. It's an expression of the forms, with their clothes on. Maybe there'll be outfits or something, or their regular day clothes, but they're going to these things and doing certain things that activate very strong emotions, very strong perceptions of things, wanting to challenge certain things, and and some of them don't have like a sexual relationship with these girls, because that's not what they're after. Manufactured sense of self is pressured by the presence of an authentic man. Yeah. Well, but it starts within yourself, right? And a lot of times, and I'm getting the sensation that there's more guys with conditioned nice guy syndrome than there isn't. Like I have the feeling that over 50% of men they fall somewhere on the scale of nice guy syndrome. And this is like, not wanting to rock the boat, avoiding conflict, seeking validation, having no emotional control, lashing out sometimes when you're not validated. I think that more than 50% of men, at least in America, because I haven't been all around the world, not yet, that in America are like this. And so when you start, if you're one of these guys and you start changing how you relate with yourself, and this happens with every single one of my guys, happened with me when I started creating shifts within myself. The ego kind of wants to stay where it is. Like it likes homeostasis, even if that homeostasis is shit. It's familiar shit. It knows how to navigate it and go through life like it, perceive life from it. And when you start creating a shift within yourself, you start a reorienting of who you are and where you stand within yourself and on what, then it'll start feeling uncomfortable, right? And that's when you're putting pressure on that manufactured sense of self, which turns out to be nice guy syndrome with a lot of dudes. I was talking with a client last night. He's in a different boat. He's single. He's trying to kind of really sort himself out. He really wants to get into a relationship. Like he wants to start a family and have all that cool stuff. And we were talking about performance, because guys who have nice guy syndrome often are fantastic performers. They perform for everyone's eyes, like, hey, I'm a great guy, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm safe, you can come to me, you can count on me, rely on me, I'm always going to be there. I'm a swell guy. And people will look at you and go, man, he's pretty swell. But it's all fake. It's all fake to just use people so that you can get the energetic drug that you're looking for to feel emotionally safe, And so he has this, as well as like a couple of my other guys. And I was telling him a story where, about another guy who has a very severe version of performance, where he really needs to work hard to get to secure the validation that he so desperately needs from women. So he's learning all these things, these different skills and stuff like that, both like in the bedroom and out of the bedroom, such that he can be perceived as like a better catch for girls. and he's just adding and adding and adding to his repertoire. And so to kind of help him break of this, I said, and the funny thing is that like he gets play. Like this guy, he's an older dude. I think he's even older than I am, at least by like a couple of years. And this dude fucks. Like he is out, like all over the place. He travels the world too, so he's going all over the place, and he's getting with like, at least 1 to 2 girls a week. And so he's he's doing his thing, and it's just so funny that he's getting all these girls, but he's still stuck in this thing of like performing, waiting for the praise, waiting for the wow factor, waiting for in the hopes of like, wow, you're the best I've ever had, like that sort of thing. And I said, listen, you need to do something drastic to, like according to this, right? This is going back to this comment here, the putting pressure, right? I said, the next girl that you're with, just fuck her and finish. Like, don't drag it out. Don't be performative. Don't try to like do anything to her. Like I'm purposely advising you to use her, and that's it. Just use her body and then be done with it. And he was so scared, like there was that just by hearing my commands to do this, it put him in a state of high anxiety, because he was so conditioned to need the validation, that it was like inside the nice guy was like panicking, like, oh no, if you do that, she's not going to be attracted to you anymore. She's not going to like you anymore. And if you peel away the layers, right, and properly, it always whittles down to, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy of someone's love and respect, right? I'm not good enough. That's really what that root is of all of this stuff, which causes one to become a high performer so that they can feel better because of that hole that's inside them. And so I told him, I was like, listen, this is what you got to do. You just got to use her and be done with it. And don't try to like, pretty up the situation. Just be very straightforward and simple. And he did it. Like I was proud of him, because it shook him. Like it really shook him. But it was even more powerful because he was doing it to himself. And that's where transformation becomes. That's when shifts start happening, when it's not like someone else does something, or you read something or experience something. It's much more powerful when you're making a conscious choice to do a certain something to put pressure on your ego. It has a way different effect. Now, because usually when these things happen, like the pressuring of our manufactured identity, aka our ego, it just happenstance. Some situation comes up, or somebody says something, and it kind of gives us a little hit, right? Puts a little pressure on that ego, maybe just a little dent or something like that. But it's easily dealt with. But when it's coming from the self, it's a totally different situation, completely different architecture. And that's what makes it more effective. When you purposely push yourself into these things, you're pushing that nice guy ego up against the wall, right? And you say, no, like I'm subduing you with this pressure, and you're going to sit the fuck down. And, and just in telling the story, so I told that kind of story of the one client to the other who's dealing with the same symptom, but just to a lesser degree. And he's like, I can feel the panic in my chest. Like I literally can feel the knot in the middle of my chest, just hearing about the guy doing that. Because he too is so afraid of losing the appeal of a woman that even conceptually it caused him discomfort. But this is the kind of pressure that you need to put upon yourself in order to facilitate change. It's not going to happen from watching videos. Like as much as you love watching my shit, as much as I love talking, it's not really going to produce a shift. It might be insightful, it might be cool, it might be entertaining, and might be fun and perhaps funny sometimes when I can tell a good joke beyond making myself laugh. But or books, that's not going to do anything. Audio things, whatever, that's not going to cause a shift. And I think that's why like a lot of guys like come to these things. They're looking for answers. They're looking for something, and they just look. That's it. And they think by just looking and listening, that might do something maybe over time. It doesn't. It just weakens you. This is why I tell my guys they have to cut down on their media intake, like all forms of media, except for books, and just to kind of clean things up. And so, yeah. 1 second. All right. As you guys read the banner, desire is not freedom, it is the leash she tightens willingly. Like uncontrolled or unbridled desire, like that's not cool. It's not as cool as leashed desire. And like tightening it. You want to suck this dick? I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. Really? That didn't sound very convincing. Let me see here. Okay. So I've got a question here. Is it possible to mac a chick at the mall and goes home to fuck on the same day? Yeah, why not? That's a weird question. You already know the answer to that. But it's going to be harder if you're really interested in pussy. It's going to be harder. It's just one of the ironies of the game, But I've heard this like in like these woo-woo self-help circles. You ever hear that phrase like whatever you're chasing is actually running away from you? I think I've heard something along those lines. What you chase runs away from you. So don't chase pussy, because it's just gonna, you take 3 steps forward, it takes 3 steps back. Because it's much more attractive for a woman to want. So you just, do as Steve said, put in your bid, and and that's really all that's necessary. But possible to mac, yes. But the real question, not possible, right? Because possible is just like, well, can you? Of course you can, right? It's possible. Is it possible to attach bicycle tires to your car? Yes, it's possible. But what you're asking is it probable? What's the likelihood? What's the probability of fucking on the same day? What's the probability of my car being able to operate with bicycle tires instead of car tires? But yeah, I think you're asking about probability, and really that just comes. But you can increase your probability by playing more. Yeah. So like, what are your chances of winning like scratch offs if you only buy one every month? Like I think the likelihood changes the more cards you buy. So if you buy 10 a week, then you have a greater chance of winning one of those scratch offs. So if you're talking to one girl a month at the mall, then your likelihood of fucking on the same day is pretty damn low. But I think that there's a lot of factors involved in that, right? There's just the base level of attraction, which you cannot really control or manufacture, right? Either it's there or it's not. Um, and I consider anything mid to be a no. Like either there's high attraction or there's no attraction at all. I don't count something moderately attracting, right? Like either it's there or it's not for me. And then it all just has to do with a lot of things, like, is your neediness in check? Are you afraid of women? Are you afraid of pussy? Are you comfortable in the presence of a woman? Like really comfortable? Are you able to speak effortlessly? Or do you stumble over your words, or do you search for the right thing to say? Have you let go of the idea of performing for a girl? Have you let go of the idea of making yourself impressive in her eyes? Right? All of these things are factors on whether you can, have an easygoing same day lay. Because if she senses any of that shit, it's like it's gonna get in the way. Absolutely. What if you're highly religious? So do you start with a conversation, then date, and go from there? I think you're thinking about this way too much and you need to get out of your head. Like, I applaud you for using your photograph. And for some reason, I'm getting the sensation that you probably think a lot and don't talk to a lot of people. So you need to talk to more people, including women you're not attracted to and women you are attracted to, and get comfortable with talking, being social. And eventually your nervous system will adapt and you'll become more comfortable. And then women are just going to be more relaxed in your presence because they have a very keen sensory system to tension, because they're geared for danger. Now, of course, there's not typically real danger for them to run away from or to avoid, but her nervous system doesn't know that we're in 2025, right? Her nervous system was created and geared many, many generations ago when we were crawling out of caves. And there was a real need for danger. Well, those systems never really updated. The nervous system when we were cave dwellers is the same nervous system that we have in 2025. It has no idea what century we're in. And it has the same operating system. So it's still like on check, on alert, and feeling for danger. And danger can come in the form of uncertainty. Danger can come in the form of second guessing. Someone who you know what they're after, but they're stumbling over their words, or they're not getting to the fucking point. You can tell that they're dancing around and you're like, why is he talking to me? Like, I know why he's talking to me, but why is he talking to me like this about this? So that then calls into question, like, a guy like that, is he in tune with his own desires? Is that something that he's become comfortable with? This is why I give my guys the desires homework. And because we get conditioned to not want much. It's to be expected that we just want a roof, a job, car, food, a woman, and like that's it. And if you want things beyond that, that's seen as selfish. And I say fuck that, right? It doesn't mean you have to have all these things, but you should have a free, wide open doorway of wanting to want. Like, you should have permission, like give yourself permission to desire things, because if you don't, and you're still living within that paradigm of conditioning, of not wanting, then you're going to have a very difficult time getting or communicating to the woman what you want. And even within dynamics, right? Let's say you've got a girlfriend, let's say you've got a wife, and you've not changed things, and now you want to. It's going to be very difficult, like, until you're comfortable with saying, I want you to show up like this when I get home from work. I had a guy a number of years ago. He's one of my earlier clients, and he was married, and his wife worked from home, and he worked in an office part of the time, and then he worked from home part of the time. Same job, but just he didn't always have to go into the office. And it used to kill him when he would like leave his home at like 7:30 in the morning, and his wife would be in like a t-shirt, hoodie, sweatpants, slippers, and then he'd come home, and by the time he got home, it was like 6:30 or something like that. I don't know, but he'd come home in the early evening, and his wife would be like on the couch, thumbing away on her phone with her feet kicked up on the armrest, just chilling, And it's not the fact that she was chilling was the issue. The issue was that she would come in and she wouldn't even look away from her phone. She'd go, "Hey, honey." And what's interesting is that they didn't have a dead bedroom, right? They had an active sex life. They had a great daughter, like all these things. But, she didn't show up the way he wanted her to. And I spent like half the damn call, like trying, I'm exaggerating, but it took a while. A lot of coaxing. Eventually I had to start to berate him to get him to admit what he wants from his wife when he comes home from the office. It was like pulling teeth with this guy to say, I want my wife to be dressed in something decent, not like a cocktail dress, but something that's not fucking sweatpants with like mustard stains on them, right? Like I want my wife to just show up and like greet me at the door wearing something decent but suitable for indoors, and greet me in the way that I want her to. He had like a phrasing, there was words involved, like that sort of stuff, and it was so difficult for him to get that out verbally, hemming and hawing and like, well, gee, I don't know, blah blah blah. And it, like I literally just had to start like hitting him over the head with my own words until he just let it out. Like he was like some kind of crime, And this is, this is conditioning. Like that's an example of that conditioning. But he finally got it out, and he was able to tell his wife exactly what he wanted. And she didn't push back. She was like kind of surprised because she had no idea. She was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea that you were feeling like this, that was something you wanted or something you needed. I had no clue. And she just changed it. So now, I don't know how now. I mean, it's been years since we've, done any kind of sessions, but, she just like this, boom, just switched. And she's wearing like, something easygoing, but cute. That's like, oh, like, she's got like nice big tits, and so she would wear things that were, alluring. If she was wearing a hoodie, she wouldn't be wearing anything underneath it with like the zipper pulled down halfway, so her cleavage was like right there in the open. Maybe like a cute little pair of shorts or just panties. Nothing crazy, but like enough to say like, I'm shifting my appearance to put a smile on a man's face, right? To make him feel good, to make him feel welcomed, desired, like missed that he was gone all day. And it just never occurred to her, and that's just what happens sometimes. But we have to train people to treat us the way we want to be treated. And if they're not coachable, then we have to let them go. Thankfully, she's coachable. And so she just kind of, went right along with it, said, fuck, I had no idea, and started doing it. But, this is why we have to get in tune with our desires, with just the idea of wanting and giving ourselves permission to want. And, whether it's wanting to talk to that girl in the mall, wanting to take her out, wanting to have sex, wanting a girl to put on a vinyl teddy and get on her knees and wear a collar, suck on your fingers, right? Or kneel on the back porch and look out at the backyard like she's a little dog. But whatever it is, to say like, this is what would be pleasing to me. This is what I want. instead of, tiptoeing around stuff, perhaps trying to negotiate certain things, and just really kind of getting to the point. And, not, yeah, exactly, Danny. Closed mouths don't get fed. What is it, the other one? Squeaky wheels get the grease. And in that sort of dialogue, right, the narrative is, well, what if the other person resists? What if the girl says no? Okay, what if she says no? Because, if that occurs on a call, the thing that I would do is I would say, well, what does that mean? And if I keep saying, what does that mean? And they give me an answer, and I keep saying it and give me an answer, we're peeling off the layers. And it always comes back to the same fucking story. Fear of being appreciated, fear of being desired, fear of being accepted, fear of not being loved, fear of not having any value to someone else. Right? These are all just very human needs or human desires. Okay, but that's typically what's at the base of all these things. And you think like the manliest looking man that ever manned, a lot of times they have the very same fears, these very same concerns, Man, didn't you already ask me this? And I said, yes, you can, but why the hell are you manipulating them? Like you're dealing with the thing that you created. Or did that question somehow jump to a different area? But yeah, we already addressed that, buddy. Or maybe I was, anyways. But yeah, I think that's it. Guys. That is it. I'm going to pull this to a close and give myself enough time to really chill out and relax. Going to be doing some recording tomorrow, so probably later on this week, maybe like after the Thanksgiving holiday, there's going to be new tutorials in the on the website. And let's see here, what was I looking at? Man, this dog snores like a motherfucker. Tutorials. Oh yeah, so I've got like the sections, like section 1, section 2, section 3. So like after these are all done, and there's a number of them. Shit, I've got like probably 50 of these. And I've only done a handful of them. That they're going to be in, like you could get them as like a set, like so set, like the beginner set, the intermediate set, and the advanced set. And so they'll be all in these groups. So you can purchase them individually, or you can purchase them as a set. And if you get the set, then the value of each one is lower versus, if you pay for them individually. So that I think would be helpful and beneficial. But yeah, I think the next one is going to be the art of a commanding presence, something like that. Oh, that's what I was going to do. The truth about shit tests. So yeah, we're going to break down shit tests. Like I feel like guys are obsessed with that fucking topic. And I think that coming at it from the angle that I do will help reframe how guys see shit tests. Because it's, I'll give you a hint, it really has nothing to do with you. And unfortunately, guys take it there. They take it personally, and they're like, oh man, she's insulting me, she's doing this, she's doing that. And really it's just it's not about you, not at all. Typically, like a lot of the stuff that like women do and say with respect to you doesn't have anything to do with you. It's just their internal stuff, just kind of acting itself out, which means that you have a tremendous ability That's kind of like what this lecture was about. To reframe, to redirect, to create different channels so it can flow in a different direction. Um, or just a channel for it to flow. Period. Didn't I see a comment here? Oh yes, yes. Uncle Guns. Go to the mall for you. Go to the mall for you. Approach a woman for you. Oh, I see what you're saying. Go to the mall for you. Approach a woman for you. If she wants to smash, cool. If she doesn't, it's cool. You still win because you're going to spend time with you either way. Yeah, yeah. You're always in the best company. Like I love being alone. On my birthday, like I'm asked like, oh, what do you want? What do you want to do? I'm like, I want to be left the fuck alone. I don't want, no offense, but like, I don't want any of my clients to call me. I want them to just hold on to their problems for one day and not contact me. I don't want to hear from my family. I don't want to hear from my friends. Nobody. I want to be alone. I want to get on my bike and just fucking ride for hours and hours and hours. Find some place like somewhere, like an upstate, some semi-rural town, and have amazing barbecue and a beer, and then ride back, right? Like that's the best fucking birthday right there. Just leave me the fuck alone. I want quiet, or the only noise I want to hear is my engine, but yeah, this is really all you got to do, Ludwig, is just like do these things, and care less and think less. I tell you what, when you start getting settled within yourself, your mind quiets down. Like I'm a dumb fuck with regard to amount of thinking. You'd think that I'm a dummy or a bimbo or something like that, because I literally don't think, like unless I have to, and I basically like treat my brain like a tool, and I use it when I need to. But you guys, a lot of people, they just run their shit out of that thing. They just wind it out, like sitting there with like a bike in neutral, okay, and turning it on and just like cranking that throttle and just letting it hit, just holding it at like 8,000 RPMs. And like, why are you doing like, you just because you can? I don't get it. Like, if you're not going to put it in gear and go somewhere, just turn the fucking thing off. Why are you like revving this out? But so many people, you're just like conditioned like to have so much mental activity, and it's like, what for? What are you gaining from that? Like, is it really getting you close to your goals? Are you really figuring shit out? Or are you just fucking, burning gas for the sake of it? It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, my mind is pretty damn quiet in my skull for the most part. What do you see here? I asked for a date, but my bro dragged me elsewhere, and I explained it to her on Snap. She's my coworker. Don't fucking talk to your coworkers. Stop it. That is lazy, low-hanging fruit. Oh, I see her almost every day. Oh, she's in she's in a different department, so it doesn't count. The fuck it doesn't. It always counts. Don't talk to women at your job unless you don't like your job, because all it takes is something weird to go down, and she gets a chip on her shoulder, and just one like moderately false claim to HR, and your job is cooked immediately. Yeah, of course I'm right, and of course Steve would say the same thing, because we're right. Like, if you don't like your job, then fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, if you got something else lined up, then just do what you want. But if it's your steady thing, you're just, I don't know, you're pissing in your own pillowcase. Don't do that shit. Thank me for what? Calling you banana peel? But I'm gonna call you banana peel from now on, because you're so damn slippery. For the tutorials, they're cheap. They're like, I don't know if you're in the United States, but it's like anywhere from 5 to 10 USD. something in that range. Yeah. My courses, that's also on the, I have one course. It's like basically to become one of my students. It's not that expensive, but it's not cheap either, because it involves a lot of my time. It's access to a library with a ton of instructional videos, audios, documents. I'm giving you reading material, and spending a lot of time like breaking your brain down, so that you can actually see it for what it is right now, and then sort of taking things apart and then giving you the tools to put things back together the way you want to. And that takes a lot of time. And so that's why, it has a premium on it. But that's not the only option. I have just call packages and things like that where people who they don't want the library, they don't really have the time or the desire to be a full-time student. So I give them just the opportunity to speak with me. And some guys do that. They just get call packages. So they just buy like a pack of 5 or 2 packs of 5, or just one off whenever they need it. And they just buy the calls, and then they call me whenever they want. But that's pretty much the only options. It's like just calls, and the difference there is that there's no access to the library. It's just phone calls. As a student, you get the calls. It's, what is it, one every week, the access to the library, and then I use Telegram to communicate with all my guys, and so basically there's 24/7 access to me, unless I'm sleeping or I'm doing some other kind of work. Constant messaging. You think you should tell Lucario Mouse to stop feeding women? I have no idea what you're talking about. They don't. I mean, Lucario, I think they have girlfriends, so they feed their own girlfriend, but I don't need to tell them anything. They're grown men. But, yeah, I'm not going to tell a grown man who's not paying me anything. Yeah. Yeah, it's you're just kind of talking to talk. If you have something valuable, or if you have like a question that has some meat on the bone, then certainly ask that. But what you're asking is like very basic stuff that you've heard the answer to like a million times. You're just an overthinker and you're not doing anything about it. So it's better to just think less, do more. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're going to pull this to a close. Go back and take notes if you need to. Okay. Because I know there was a lot in there about the chaoticness or the messiness that can occur with a woman's mind. But I assure you that once you're more sorted out and you're less like their minds, they become a lot easier. Like you don't feel any of that pressure. It doesn't affect you in the same way. Okay. All right. So this is the Dominance Academy. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I'm going to bow out. Have yourself a great rest of your evening if you're on this side of the world. And have a great week. Take it easy.